Welcome, everyone, to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host, Jordan Raanan on ESPN, ESPN.com. Giants reporter, Breaking Big Blue Times Giants Nation show here on I can't even remember the days. We are Wednesday afternoon. Sorry about the late start. I'm going to blame it on Bobby. Really, probably both of our faults here. Bobby needed a late start, but to be honest with you, I probably wasn't going to be on time anyway. In reality, if you see the video here, it's kind of weird. This is my first time ever. Bobby, you could chime in here. I don't know if you've ever been in this. You ever have those like phone booth? You see those like phone booth type like workstations? So I'm in like the ESPN radio office.
They're called cubicles.
No. This is like a phone booth. It's enclosed. A cubicle is open.
Oh, it's actually they had one of those at John Boy, and I thought it was a fucking joke, but it's actually something they use to make calls and shit. It's the weirdest thing
so
ever.
I'm in like the call booth. You kind of see that. You can see like this is a wall, and this is a glass door over here. So it's very interesting. It's my first time in here. It's kind of hot. I feel like I'll be like dripping sweat by the time we're done here. But this is a first for me to be in one of these phone booths working. So free agency on the horizon. Cuts started. We'll get to those in a minute. Bobby Okereke was first in that regard. Kind of something we've been monitoring for days. I mean, last time when I went on, I was hoping to have something before then. It didn't materialize, and now here we are 3 days later, so we're there. So free agency about to start, and the Giants are going to be pretty active in reshaping the roster. And I know people kind of harped on that when I said something along the lines of there's going to be significant changes to the roster. And I think that's what we're going to get here. And they definitely looked into the possibility, and I brought this up last time, about the possibility of they looked into the possibility of signing Kenneth Walker. And I've heard from multiple people that have reached out to me saying, what about Jeremiah Love? It seems like they have a lot of interest in Jeremiah Love. They're doing a lot of work on Jeremiah Love, which to me signifies, okay, they're going to make a move, or at least looking at running backs. Okay, what level? We don't really know yet. We'll see. But to me, it kind of signified the direction this team is heading. Now, my understanding is they're very serious about hold on, I'm getting a lot of text messages here. I know about the Ricky thing, by the way, everybody keeps asking over there. That's not about Ricky, about the linebacker. But Tyler Linderbaum, right? The Giants are seriously in that mix. Now, Vegas is expected to be in there. The Browns are a team to watch in that as well. So, but the fact that the Giants are serious in there, they're looking at guards. Wyatt Teller is a possibility. He has some connection to new offensive line coach, veteran there. But there's a lot of guards, right? That's a position. You got guys like Dylan Parham, Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, even like old friend Kevin Zeitler. So guards a position they're also looking at to some degree. And to me, the more likely scenario is the Giants end up bolstering the offensive line. Jermaine Illuminor is still in that mix. We'll see how that plays out here in the next few days. But he's still in the mix at right tackle. The more likely scenario is the Giants bulk up on the offensive and defensive lines. How about this name of interest? They have interest in John Franklin Myers. Multiple sources have told me the Giants are interested in that. He essentially is the top interior defensive lineman at the market. Do I believe that they're going to go to that length? Because you're talking about probably the $20 million a year market for a player like John Franklin Myers, because this isn't an especially strong interior defensive line group. Guys available like Sheldon Rankins, Logan Hall, David Onyemata. Like that's the top of that market. And then Nacho is there, is like a, $3 to $5 million type of guy. I would, if I had a guess, would probably expect him to land elsewhere, and the Giants to sign a little higher level of a player at that position. But it just goes to show you. And I know people bugged out and we need to focus on the lines when they heard the running back thing. But I think that's a real thing. The Giants' focus here, it's not going to be a super sexy free agency. Like they're not going to be all over Sports Center with signing wide receivers and quarterbacks and we'll see about running backs, but and those edge rushers and the premium sexy positions. It's going to be about finding and adding all to the lines and making them a more physical team, even in the running game. Which is why I think that was relevant when I heard the news about being interested in a Kenneth Walker, being interested in a Travis Etienne, and guys like that who are considered top of the market running backs. But offensive line, defensive line will be a focus of the Giants, even adding players at the wide receiver and tight end position that block. It seems to be a focus. Guys like Jake Bobo as a blocking wide receiver type guy, Charlie Kohler, Keefe as tight ends. So really a focus on getting bigger and physical, and that involves and probably is the focus, even though everybody's kind of concentrating because the running back thing catches everyone's attention. To me, it probably signifies the lines are where we should focus. You have something to chime in, Bobby?
Producer note before I go, trivia. Who was Daniel Jones' last college passing touchdown to? 5.
Daniel
4,
Jones, Jamison
3.
Crowder.
Jake Bobo. He was a freshman before he transferred out of.
Oh, I didn't even put him in connection with Duke. That's why, Jamison Crowder was the first guy that came to my head in regards to Duke receivers. So I know they had worked out in the past. I didn't think they actually played together, to be honest with you. But, yeah. So, defensive tackle. You got John Franklin Myers, a guy that they have at least shown interest in. We'll see how serious they get there. Sebastian Joseph Day, a guy to keep an eye on. DJ Reader. So what's the focus here? The focus here is bigger, physical, stop the run. And again, this has to do with, back to that middle linebacker position. The quote I used and that I dug up yesterday was from John Harbaugh at the Combine. The inside linebacker isn't always considered a value position, but you can't stop the run without an inside linebacker making tackles in the middle, right? You can't do it. So that becomes pretty important. Do I think it's Tremaine Edmonds that they might be trying to trade for? I'm not so sure about that at this point. I don't know if there's someone else out there that we haven't heard of that's on the market. But Devin Lloyd is a guy, I believe they checked in on him, but it sounds like he's a guy that Jacksonville's trying to get back. So I'm not sure he's actually, going to make it to the market, or if the Giants want to swim in those waters. But I know Leo Chanel is a guy that Bobby likes a lot. A lot of people like, seems to be a sexy name, hasn't actually produced to that level that everybody kind of projects him to be, but definitely an interesting name at that middle linebacker position. Alex Anzalone, a player they have expressed interest in. So these are guys to kind of keep an eye on. Also, I must say, Micah McFadden so the Giants' plan at inside linebacker, from what I understand, will involve adding a player either in free agency or trade, and also potentially the draft. So it's not just like, hey, one or the other. And also Micah McFadden, a guy that I think has a decent shot of returning on a one-year deal, right? He has to prove it. He came off an injury. Tough time for him to have a year where he missed the whole season. Foot injury, surgery, Liz Frank related. So he'll have to come back and prove it. I think there's a good chance that ends up being with the Giants, but that's also not going to preclude them from making other moves at the position. Getting a veteran middle linebacker probably also won't preclude them if Sonny Styles is there, and they love Sonny Styles. And word is that the Giants are high on Sonny Styles from people you talk to, that there were people that really were wowed, I think is the right way to say it, by what they saw from him at the Combine. Now, they knew he was going to perform well because physically he's an excellent player, but that's something that I would still expect the Giants to be interested. So adding significantly at the middle linebacker position, adding significantly on the lines, offensive, defensive line, in the mix for Tyler Linderbaum, looking at guards, still in the mix for Jermaine Illuminor, right tackle. Not sure what the pivot is there. I don't know if it's Rasheed Walker. I always want to call him Rasheed Wallace, by the way. But
ball don't lie.
Ball don't lie, exactly. he's people I talked to kind of looked at as more of a left tackle, so it'd be an interesting move. I don't know. What do you think of that, Bobby? Is that a concern to you at all? Right, left?
I'd with Jermaine, I'd rather just let's keep Jermaine. We know what he is. You know, Rashid has benefited from being with the Packers and their structure. Also, Rashid Walker, as good as he could get, which I don't think he's that good. I'll always remember him for getting beat very easily in college and then turning and yelling at his quarterback, "Throw it, throw it."
I don't remember, so I got to go look at that up. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. So those are the things. I mean, even like safety, I think is a position the Giants will address also. But I don't think that's going to be super high end in that regard. You know, somebody like Ardarius Washington, a name to keep an eye on, has the connection to John Harbaugh from Baltimore. More like a third safety, special teams type guy. So we'll see what happens with that. Other names, let's see. The running back position. I don't think it's just high-end running back or bust. Devin Singletary, obviously. Easy cuts for the Giants. We're going to see Devin Singletary, Graham Gano, my opinion. This is just common sense-wise. Devin Singletary, Graham Gano, and James Hudson. Those seem like the obvious ones, right? Salary and production clearly don't match. Jamie Gillen also going to be in that mix. I almost be surprised at this point if he ends up coming back. I saw people list Roy Robertson Harris. I think he's going to come back. I don't see that happening. Giants want to add to the interior of the defensive line, not subtract. Chris Board, a possible cut, injured most of this past season, but he does have a connection to John Harbaugh and special teams. The problem is he's been injured now, so that's kind of muddies that situation a little bit. Anyone else I'm missing, Bobby, on that end?
On the
cuts?
I don't think losing Roy Robertson Harris hurts you. I mean, he's a pass rush specialist. That's not that good as a pass rusher.
Right, but I don't think from talking to people, I don't think that's.
I tweeted out the list. So Okereke gone. Runyon doesn't make sense to happen unless they were going for big upgrades.
Runyon's the one that I did mention that, and I agree with you. I just think they already have an opening at guard. I don't think they want to create another opening. And then if you're talking about getting Linderbaum, like then if you go to that depth for center, Illuminor might be in question. Like then you're talking about potentially switching out 4 linemen. Except for Andrew Thomas. That's a lot.
Play through this situation, though.
Okay.
You cut Runyon. You make a big splash at guard. Maybe you get Linderbaum. Maybe you run with JMS. Greg Van Roten and John Runyon weren't so different last year. And Greg Van Roten will come out of a 1-year, $3 million deal.
Fair.
I just thought about that, too. That's not something that I've been stewing on either.
Yeah. Look, I don't think there's much difference in regards to performance, and clearly the price is different. I just think that there is, to some degree, a benefit to keeping the left side intact and just rolling with okay, at least we have the left side. We don't have to worry about they're familiar playing with each other. We don't have to kind of start over there again, rather than, because the right side might have to be a complete overhaul. And also, even if you go with Van Roten, you better have a backup contingency plan there.
Yeah, I think they should have a backup contingency plan regardless.
Yeah, so that's where we are with the cuts. So Okereke, you knew that kind of was coming to an end because they were poking around at the linebacker position at the combine, the Giants, which made you realize, okay, Bobby Okereke, and then that comment by John Harbaugh is probably not long for New York and the spot. Defensive captain, a lot of tackles, but to be fair, got injured first year. In the wing defense was great, right? He was a monster. He played great that year. Second year defensive change kind of seemed to slow him down. Wasn't the same player once the defense changed. Then he got injured. And this past year, yes, a lot of tackles, but just didn't make the same kind of impact he did that first year. I think he needs to be in that super aggressive defense, like to maximize his ability. His effectiveness, I should say, like he was that first year, and it just wasn't the case the last 2 years, and now maybe he has slowed down a little bit. So that was a performance-based move. I think if he was playing at a super high level, they would have just kept him. That's not something the Giants would have worried about at all. In regards to the 3 free agents, Illuminor I still view as the most likely to return. Still believe that there's going to be talks between those two sides before this is all said and done here at the end of this week. You've got Cordell Flott, kind of contingent on what that market is. Not sure if the Giants want to pay to the degree that he could get paid just because he had a really good year as a cover cornerback. Remember, John Harbaugh, more physical, looking for more physical cornerbacks, and stopping the run is a huge priority. Wan'Dale's my least likely at this point, not because he's not a good player. He is a very good player, I believe, but how much value do the Giants have in the slot position? And he's going to get paid. There's a lot of buzz out there about Wan'Dale Robinson right now in the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, happen to have Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator. So I would keep an eye on Wan'Dale Robinson and the Tennessee Titans as things stand right now. Daniel Bellinger, we'll see on that one. Again, I think that's a possibility. Price is a factor there. So that's another interesting one to keep an eye on as we move forward here. And then Micah McFadden, I talked about before. Bobby, anything I didn't touch on there that intrigues you? A name I have listed here is Tyquan Thornton at wide receiver. Had some connection to the Giants. Kayvon Thibodeau I have listed down here. Just I think that in the end that a trade is still probably more likely than not. We'll see how that pans out. That does equate to $15 million in money that the Giants can then have some ability to make some moves with. So you take a draft pick there. Anything, Bobby, stick out to you? All right, well, let's do a quick on to the next one, so we could for the pod we could change it. We could flip it over.
If we're doing on to the next one, we got to talk about Shopify. When you're starting off with something new, it seems like your to-do list keeps growing every day with new tasks, and that list can easily begin to overrun your life. Which, by the way, we're going legit as a corporation. We're an S corp now. So I have Jordan's bank account information, Social Security. Reach out to me if you want it.
You're like legit now. Legit.
I just kept on saying, why didn't we do this last year? Why didn't we do this last year? But
you're a legit media guy now.
Yeah, one thing
media some clowns.
I better be credentialed to West Virginia. I'm driving to West Virginia. I'm telling them, I'm showing up either way. So I will be in there no matter what. So just know I will make a stink. But I don't need to make a stink about Shopify because they've been good to me. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out but simplifies everything can be such a game changer for millions of businesses. That tool is Shopify. Cha-ching! We don't have the sound effect for the live ad reads, which I'll be honest, Shopify, people get a little jarred by that. Maybe that's what they want. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. I mean, Shopify for us are like, hey, we're the number one, merchant app. You guys are the number one Giants podcast. Well, why would we waste our time on anything else? We found each other. Accelerate your efficiency, whether you're uploading new products or trying to improve existing ones. Shopify is packed with helpful tools that write product description, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. Hey, I bet you there's going to be some Italian Giants fans now that Justin Pugh's over there. They're going to want to buy some stuff. And what if I get stuck? Shopify.
What about West Virginia? West Virginia Giants fans?
Yeah, it's shipped to even West damn Virginia. And what if I get stuck? Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. Tackle all those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites to try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. Everything is all in one place, making your life easier and your business operations smoother. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing cha-ching. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/GNS. Go to shopify.com/GNS. That's shopify.com/GNS. Cha-ching. You'll be glad you did. Have it your way. So let me add that. All right, there we go. The names, like,
Where do you want to start?
I haven't gotten infatuated with like any free agent names. Pre-free agency, I'm more like looking at plan and positions more so than I am like, oh, I want this individual player, because if you an individual player is so great, they're going to get a ton of money, and that's not the way you usually build your team.
And I'm throwing out names, and look, they have interest in a lot of guys, because the value I see in it is you see the range and what they're the positions and how they're going to build a team. So I look at it as not, oh, they're definitely going to get this guy. As a matter of fact, it's just one of several guys that are probably in the mix that they're looking at, but it gives you an idea of the thought process that the team is going to use in free agency. That's how I view it.
So I do want to talk about the Ricky linebacker trade. I think Ricky's at a point now where we do have to like take what he's saying and talk about it. I want to get this done, because this has been the hot topic, is the running back.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be spending some money on a good running back, or is this just a bunch of like, because we're doing all these debates and stuff, and I don't want to hear, oh, well, they just got priced out. Like, they know what it's going to take. Are they going to do that?
Look, I don't know. I think it's still it's probably less likely. I'm not going to say unlikely, but less likely they go and get someone at the top of the running back market, at least in free agency. But I do think they're going to at least look at it. And the fact that they're looking at it means they're not content fully with their running back situation, or they want to add significantly to that running back situation. That, to me, is what it indicates. I can't answer. I was talking to a bunch of agents this morning. They don't really know right now. Most of the guys they're getting a lot of wishy-washy answers from teams. So they're like, okay, where are you at? What are you looking at? Like, it's not. There's not a lot of definitive stuff like, okay, let's do a deal. Here's what we're willing to offer you at this point. Like, that's not where we're at in the process yet. It's Wednesday. I think maybe you get to that over the weekend, right? And until then, it's just sort of, all right, assessing approximately where the market is on a bunch of guys. And the Giants assess the market at the high end of the running back position, and also the middle of the running back position, in the bottom, like guys like Khalil Herbert, guys like that. I expect the Giants, depending on, where they go, to keep moving down the list and look at other options as well.
A lot of the fan base has a very positive view of Cam Scatterboo and Tyrone Tracy, and how, when I was rewatching all of Jackson Dart's plays from this past year, I was reminded, like, man, Cam Scatterboo, like, he did actually add something to this team. He wasn't just a back who was hitting the hole and hitting it hard. Obviously, I'm not sitting here telling you he's a perennial Pro Bowl back, but like, what do you think that tells you about how John Harbaugh views Cam Scatterboo and Tyrone Tracy?
I think he likes Cam Scatterboo. He's mentioned his name multiple times when he went back and watched the film. So I think he likes the way he plays. But I also think he realizes there needs to be contingencies for Cam Scatterboo, right? The way he plays, coming off a serious injury, that you can't just be like, okay, we have Cam Scatterboo, we're good. Like, we'll just supplement guys around him. And I'm not really sure about the Tyrone Tracy. I think that's to be determined. Talked to people about that recently, and there seems to be a little bit of an unknown in that regard of how much they value Tyrone Tracy. So I think that is something to keep an eye on as we move forward here.
Yeah, I think they're not just doing it because of the uncertainty of Cam Scatterboo's injury. It's probably they don't view Tyrone Tracy as high as others do, which I like Tracy, but he is someone who needs space to operate, right? He's not really adding. He's more of a nice one cut and go, and if you give him space, he can create some explosive, but he's not adding any yards, breaking tackles, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe they could get some value back, or put him in some type of swap or something if they do go that route. But that's my thing, is like, I'm the Jeremiah Love stuff. I'm just not even wading into those waters, because I actually don't think that's going to happen at pick 5, and I wouldn't like that. But paying a running back in free agency, I would be a little more on board for.
I think it would be something they would consider, by the way. Like, if they have him and I don't think they're at this point yet, but he's their top player, number one player on their board overall, which I've spoken to people around the league that said they think that he might be the top player on the board when all's said and done, like for other teams. that if he's the number one player on their board and he's there at 5, that it's something that they would have to consider. I don't love it either because you don't get the value out of it. Yes, he might be a great player, but you're not getting a deal anymore, right? That's the beauty of rookies, is there's also a financial component to it where if you get a tackle, let's say they don't resign Illuminor and you get a tackle at that spot, you're getting a guy for like $11.5 million a year, and a high-end tackle, if he's playing it like that in years, 3, 2, 3, or 4, a high-end tackle is what, $30 million a year?
Well, here's the thing: is there may not be that tackle there, but here's what I do know: Sonny
I
Styles
created a
might be there.
hypothetical, yeah.
Caleb
Could be
Downs
any
might
position.
be there, and I'd rather have those guys there than Jeremiah Love. So yeah, on the running back. Well, I mean, Okereke gone, like you said. I assume I don't think any other like names will be gone. Everyone will kind of just be expected. The only one that could be a wild card is Runyon.
Well, there'll be like little moves. Like if they get Linderbaum, like you might move JMS for like a player that, anything, any pick you can get. Like these are the kind of, these are like, maybe they just decide, we're not going to, at the end of the day, we don't view Tyler Nubin as what we did a couple years ago in this system. Then we could just move him. Like guys like that can be moved at the end of the day, just to clear the deck and make space to what they're trying to do in the new schemes and new systems.
Yeah, and for people who aren't familiar, Ricky is basically an anonymous account who was he's an agent. He's somebody who knows information, and he's got it early because everything's not fully confirmed, and he could just tweet it out anonymously. So he's someone who I like. When he talks, I'm listening. I know he's not 100%, and the draft stuff I don't pay attention to anybody. But he posted on Big Blue Interactive about a linebacker trade. I know everyone's name goes to Tremaine Edmonds because there was a fake account that said that a couple weeks ago. I tried, thinking because it was very close to the beginning of the show, so I couldn't really go through it. But I went through like tackle leaders and stuff. The names I looked at, Edmonds is an expiring deal. I don't think they're going to trade for him. Patrick Queen, he might be a cut in Pittsburgh because they could save a lot of money cutting him, trying to do connections. Roquan doesn't make sense for the Ravens to trade right now. If they were ever to trade them, be in a year. The names like I kind of got me were maybe a Cedric Gray, Cody Barton, one of those guys that comes over from Tennessee with Denard Wilson that Robert Salo's not as big of a fan of. Maybe a Nick Bolton with the Chiefs and they re-sign Leo Chanel. I'm trying to run through who those names
Nick Bolton would be an interesting one for sure. I would, if I'm the Giants, I'd be interested in that. I also think the likelihood is it's a mid-range guy, a very short-term fix. This way it keeps open the possibility of them finding the long-term fix in Sonny Styles and not really committing much and have, Micah McFadden with, a mid-range guy to start and then potentially adding in the draft a significant player like Styles.
Yeah, and it also, you're playing two linebackers 80% of the time. And if you have an advantage, you might be bumping that up to 95% of the time.
I also, from poking around a little bit, I don't think it's Edmonds. I don't.
This doesn't make sense with his age and his contract. He seems like maybe
I thought that originally, but I'm just talking from poking around a little bit. Now, maybe they're doing a good job hiding it, but it just doesn't seem to be the move for the Giants here because it's a short-term fix, right? I know you can get off it pretty easy. It's going to probably be like a 1-year thing with him, right? What is he, 8 years in the league, 28, 29 years old, something like that. Like you're not going to have to guarantee a ton of money, but I don't know. Just doesn't seem to be the move. Though I can't attest to that for 100%.
Yeah, and also, if it is a guy like Edmonds, never remind yourself that teams that are willing to cut a player are willing to trade him for basically anything. It could be another, 6th and 7th pick swap, which we've gotten addicted to those, and I love those personally. I'm not fully in on what how good of Tremaine Edmonds is at this point of his career, but he has been a good player for most of his career.
It is worth noting John Harbaugh comes from a place that has traditionally accumulated a lot of picks, right? They don't have a ton of picks this year right now.
Yeah.
As things stand. And that's kind of their philosophy is, and I'm a big believer in this, just get as many picks as possible. It's like throwing darts anyway. With the percentage of success is low, but if you have higher amount of picks, you'll hit on more players. So trading guys for mid to lower round draft picks, I think, is something that's definitely on the table with John Harbaugh running the show. But then again, we don't really know how much John Harbaugh is on board with all the things they did in Baltimore, if that's just the way he's going to do things or what he believes in. Like, that's the beauty of the Giants this offseason. It's all new, it's all fresh, and we're going to find out exactly what he believes in.
Yeah. My official prediction, if they do a trade, it is for either Cody Barton or Cedric Gray from the Titans. That makes sense. Robert Saleh wants to get his own type of linebacker in there. Denard Wilson picked both of these guys to be linebackers for him. I believe Cedric Gray was part of the draft class while he was there. But staying on linebacker for a last second before we could let this transition into the pending free agents. Micah McFadden is going to get a 1-year cheap deal from somebody. What is the likelihood that is from the Giants? Which, it's a brand new defense, right? So you don't know how exactly he's going to fit. He is a limited player, but he could get more playing time somewhere else. I would love to bring him back no matter what the Giants do at linebacker because it's going to be such a cheap deal.
Yeah, I think there's a decent shot of that happening. More likely than not, I would say on that. I leaned less likely than not on other things, most of the things here today. But today I'm going to go more likely than not on Micah McFadden returning, 1 year, $3 to $5 million type deal. Go out and
be very cheap.
Yeah, something along those lines. And look, he's flashed and shown that he's at least a starting caliber player in this league. I think he could be a decent starter, especially alongside the right person. If you told me Sonny Styles is the guy they draft and he ends up being a high-end linebacker, I'm perfectly fine with Sonny Styles and Micah McFadden as my two linebackers.
Especially for year one under this regime. But he is, as much as I like Micah McFadden and want to bring him back because I think he'll be cheap and he's a successful draft pick. He does miss tackles more often than linebackers should, and you're trying to get him off the field on third down, which I think a Denard Wilson would like to find a third safety to do that more often. But that does come into play when you're talking about him as a player. With that, the other free agents.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wandale, we don't need to beat that over the head. We kind of all assume he's going to be gone, going to get a big contract from somewhere else. Illuminor. We just did our pending free agent pod, put it out yesterday, and it's this should be a priority. Don't try and, let's pay someone else $6 million per year less. Take care of this position, right? He's the best right tackle you've had since Kareem McKenzie. You want to, take Jackson Dart's development serious. You know what he is. He's not a perfect player. You might be overpaying him a little bit, but just make that a priority. I view him that way. Do you believe the Giants and Jermaine Illuminor will get a deal done?
I'm 50-50 on this one. I think it's a coin flip. I do think Jermaine Illuminor would like to return. He's open to a return. So it all depends on, are the Giants willing to pay the price of whatever that market turns out to be for Jermaine Illuminor? They have interest, the Giants, to some degree, and Illuminor has interest. So can they make it happen? We'll have to wait and see, because you also have to realize that this is Jermaine Illuminor's 31, I think. They're 31?
Correct.
He's 31 years old. This is probably his last chance at a real payday in the NFL, right? I mean, being realistic here. So this is a chance to set up his family as much as possible for the future and down the line. I think it's going to the money and the exact dollar amount is going to matter here. And it's a matter of whether the Giants and John Harbaugh in particular are willing to pay. He does know him. Remember, they do have a connection. He played under John Harbaugh early in his career. So they do have some familiarity with each other. And I believe they have talked already. So I think there's a chance, but I'm not overly confident that it's going to happen.
See, I wish there was an overconfidence, because
I can't say that. I'm just like a coin flip right now. I know that's lame. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Come on, put your foot down one way or the other.
Yeah, and like you said, he was drafted by the Ravens, but they also moved on from him after 2 years. So that's one thing is with Harbaugh, it's there's a connection here. That's not always a good, Chris Board, there's a connection there. He left to go to the Giants because the Ravens didn't want to pay him $2.5 million per year or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was just like, man, it should be a priority. And because there is a ceiling on what he can get. It's right around that 22.5 mil per year. That's kind of the ceiling of what he can get on the open market because he is 31. And I just wish the Giants were like, hey, you know, they don't need to show their hands, but like, we're going to pay you more. Because like you said, he's going where he's getting the top dollar. He's not giving any discount to stay with the Giants.
And you can't blame him. Like, this is his last shot to get paid. So I'm all for players doing that. Like, it's now or never for him.
Well, it's not like he's, you know, a drafted hometown. I guess he technically is a hometown kid, but you know, he's played for a bunch of teams. It's not like he's going to have more loyalty to us than he did the Raiders or whoever else. So that's, you know, last thing on a Flott. We'll talk about Flott real quick before we move on to the other guys. Move on to other things. What's the sense on him? I think the outside world is like, wow, that guy got that contract. But I don't think he's going to get like this mega contract like some of you guys are making it out to seem. Like, I think he'll probably. Do you think it's crazy to think he'll come in at like 12 mil per year?
Who are we talking about? Flott?
Cordell Flott.
Oh yeah, I think he's around a $10 million a year guy.
Yeah, so like for the Giants fans, we're like, oh, that's nice.
I didn't predict him to be like a $15 million a year guy.
No, but people tweet like, this guy's going to get paid. And I'm like, yeah, paid in like the sense of like nobody around the NFL really knows. Cardinals fans don't know who he is. But for Giants fans, I don't think that number is going to be crazy. It's just, I said it on this one. I pride myself on not just like, oh, you got to trust them, whatever they do. This is one where I'm like, this isn't what they're trying to do at corner. Like, he has good and bad outliers as a player. If the bad outliers are what they're looking for, then I'm fine with them moving on from him.
Yeah, look, I kind of agree with you on that. I think it all depends on what the market is. If it's a team-friendly deal, they might be interested. Otherwise, I'm not so sure the Giants go down that road of paying him because it's 1 year of production, not exactly what they're looking for. So, I don't know. I am not overly optimistic on that one.
We got an Art Stapleton tweet. This is the beauty of being live. Let me look at this guy's contract real quick. Oh, that doesn't make much sense. He said, "Wonder if Fred Warner would be available, but there'd be $53 million in dead cap if they. Let me look at the trade thing. Let's see. Trade pre-June 1st. They would save 13. No, they would lose 13 mil. Yeah, I'm not getting Fred Warner. Got me excited there for a second, Art.
That's just I haven't really looked into it. I also haven't heard that much about it. And if they're going to lose money on that, that's probably not a move they're going to make.
So I want to get
real quick. We were talking about Flott. This question here. I'll put it up real quick. I can't read it now because it's too small on my screen.
Isn't Flott also working with Mulugeta? That means he's going to get paid.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Is David Mulugeta represents both Jermaine Illuminor and Cordell Flott, and he is very good at getting cornerbacks in particular paid, and I think that's why Cordell Flott went there. And look,
I have a scoop, though.
Hold on, what was that?
I have a scoop on Cordell Flott.
All right, hold on. We'll do it in a second. There are teams out there that value the cover portion of what he brings to the table. What do you got?
Cordell Flott's people reached out to the New York Mets to throw out a first pitch after free agency. So maybe he's coming back, or maybe he's not.
Maybe he's going to the Jets.
I know that was the thought that I had, which he would be a good fit for Aaron Glenn, just running man coverage all every play. But yeah, all right. So I want to get to some of the chat questions. I want to save the training camp West Virginia stuff we'll finish on that.
All right. Let's do real quick. On to the next one here.
On to the next one. Thoughts on what the free agent contracts will look like? I know we're making cuts and restructure contracts, but I still can't see a lot of cap space. So, I can answer this. They went from 2 million to 11 million with Bobby Okereke. With let me
also isn't it top 51 to start? So it's actually more than that. So like for the spring, you have even more money to spend.
Yeah, to start. But so they're at 11 million there. So they're going to cut James Hudson. That puts them at 16.5. They're going to cut Graham Gano. That puts them at 21. They're going to cut Devin Singletary. That puts them at 26.2. I think they're going to cut Roy Robertson Harris. That puts them at 24.5. They cut Chris Board. That puts them at 27 million. They obviously got to fill out a lot of the roster, but that puts them just at 27 million with their basic cuts. Then you restructure,
restructuring Dex, Andrew Thomas.
Yeah,
and
these
Brian
contracts
Burns.
are always backloaded.
Gives you another $30 million in flexibility. I'm making that number up off the top of my head as an estimate.
Yeah, and you remember these contracts are always, the first year cap hit is not indicative of what the actual contract is. It's always less. So, but it's a very good question because we just kind of did, like, there's the math of how the Giants can attack free agency. So good question. Let's see. Someone says Bobby looks like AJ Przinsky. I take that as a compliment. He was a catcher, dude. Like, you say, like, catchers from the early 2000s. Jorge Posada, he's the Yankees guy. Mike Piazza, AJ Przinsky. Who am I missing? Pudge Rodriguez, my favorite catcher of all time outside of Yankees players.
Benito Santiago.
See, I don't know how many Benito Santiago fans are in the chat.
That's an earlier.
Yeah, is that 90s? Because I don't know that name, and I knew early 2000s baseball.
Definitely, it's probably even 80s, 90s. Yeah. I'm old. What can I tell you?
Let's see. Does Alex Pierce? You started this one. Does Alex Pierce hitting free agency help the Giants re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson? That's actually a good question.
I think to a degree it does because my understanding is the likelihood is that either Alec Pierce or Wan'Dale Robinson will be going to the Titans. The question is which one. Now, the flip side is still the most likely scenario appears to be Alec Pierce returning to Indianapolis, but I do think that those are related and moves we should keep an eye on of what happens with those two players in particular. So there you go. Turn your mic on, Bobby.
I'm just looking for the next question. Christian Wilkins. I mean, we're a full year of him not playing. What's the deal there? Like, that seems like the perfect, take a swing. He's got to have no market. Obviously, he's a weird dude, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of tricky stuff to that situation. Going to be hard to bring him into your locker room in that regard. Don't really know what's true and what's not about that, but you hear a lot of things in that regard, and would make it a tough move to justify. Granted, he's good friends with Dexter Lawrence, but I, especially with the injury front and the questions about bringing him into your locker room, I would be surprised if that's something that has a real chance of happening.
Julian says, do these guys ever actually answer any questions in the comments section? Yes, but not yours. And that's, especially when I saw you crying about us making money.
They want us to work for free?
Yeah. What's the deal? I vet everything we do. Let's see. So get some other questions in. Again, we're going to do the West Virginia training camp thing at the end.
I can't see the questions in the chat.
Here's a good one. Belton or Goner. Dane Belton, Daniel Bellinger. What's the word on that?
Oh, yeah, that was the one I forgot. I knew I was forgetting another one. Bellinger, I think, has a chance to return. Belton, I'd be very surprised if he does return. I consider him likely to land elsewhere.
Bellinger?
Has a chance to return. I do. I think that's a possibility. Kind of player that I think John Harbaugh likes. So yeah, I do not think that's a crazy one right there to envision him returning. Well, we'll see, but
good topic. I'm interested to see what they do at tight end in free agency. I've been doing my prep and stuff. Chig Okonkwo, where it's like the Titans put way too big of expectations for him. But if you're bringing him in to be that number 2 tight end to Theo, not even this number 2, but just the difference, the non-inline tight end, I feel like that's something that could fit.
What do you think Chig Okonkwo gets in free agency?
I mean, nobody's paying him to be their starting tight end, right?
You sure?
I guess. I mean, again, that's free agency. I could be wrong. I mean,
who's the top available tight ends?
Let me look up 2026 free agents.
Kyle Pitts is not available, right?
Correct.
You have Travis Kelce, sure, and Isaiah Likely, and then Chigaquanqua.
David Njoku is available. Dallas Goedert.
I don't think
Hooper, Moreau. I mean, would 2 years, $12 million get you Chigaquanqua? Darren Waller is available.
Not even close. That's the problem. You're talking about a guy who's going to be like a $10 million a year guy. Someone's going to bet on the talent.
Yeah, $10 million. He's never shown to be a tight end one. Like not even at Maryland did he show. Like I don't understand why the Titans ever thought he was just going to be our number one tight end. Like that was never the projection with Chigaquanqua. Charlie Kohler is the guy
that's where it's going to be, though, Bobby. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we're going to get Charlie Kohler.
He's going to be priced out of what you would like to bring in Chigaquanqua for.
All right, I'll settle on Charlie Kohler.
Name I mentioned before.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Everyone's bringing up Goddard when that'd be awkward if the Giants sign him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's crazy that they'll look into it. I would be surprised if they pull the trigger on that. I expect them to go for more of a complete blocking tight end to complement Theo Johnson as well.
This is actually a good topic by Densley Richard. We all assume Wandale's gone, which I agree. I agree with doing that, but we talked about it on our pending free agent pod as well too. That does leave you with Malik Neighbors coming off of a torn ACL, Slayton coming off of his worst career year, and a guy who looks like his confidence was completely shot, and 29 years old, and understanding that he's only here now simply because they have to keep him. Like that leaves the wide receiver room as a question mark, where with Wandale, it's very passable for a year.
Yeah, I mean, they poked around about receivers. I know they at least poked around to look into the Mike Evans market. I wouldn't expect that one to happen, though. But, that next level of wide receiver, I do expect the Giants to keep an eye on it. Romeo Doubs is a guy I would look at. Jawan Jennings. Those are kind of guys that I think the Giants could eventually make a play for.
Yeah, I fall in I'd rather pay the extra for Alec Pierce or pay the less for Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, I don't think Alec Pierce is kind of going to be a real option for them.
Me either, but I'm saying with the Wandale conversation, it's like I'd rather pay extra for the player that I think is better or pay less.
Alec Pierce is going to get like 25 plus-ish per year. Like that's a big-time, big boy contract.
Big deal. How about Daniel Jones just doing it again?
He knows how to make money, huh?
The Colts, by the way, are tagging him. This is where it's like, why didn't you learn from the Giants? If obviously, hindsight with the Giants, you just don't pay Daniel Jones and you deal with the backlash of moving on from a playoff player. But like the hindsight, if the realistic hindsight is like, just let him hit the open market. Don't bid against yourself. And just be like, hey, we'll pay whatever. Eventually,
well, I think they're saying that this is like they don't think anybody's going to go and try to make a play for him.
But why not let him hit the open market so you can bring him back that's the way they're getting the cheapest deal. Keep him on the tag just makes it annoying and keeps these negotiations going where you're bidding against yourself.
I don't know. This I think kind of does set his market, and if he could bring something else, sure they'll contemplate paying him more. But it's saying, hey, this is what we think you're worth, right in this range.
Yeah. Air Force.
Well, good for Daniel Jones. He's gonna be like the modern age Kirk Cousins.
He makes a great point. If Jones is not on our team, wow, that's a crazy point. That's it's crazy because we centered the entire episode around him.
We spent literally a minute on it.
That was in the title.
Now we're stretching it. Now we're actually going.
I'm going to title the next episode just that. Daniel Jones does it again. All right, we're at 48 minutes. Let's get one or two more questions in, and then we will do training camp in West Virginia because that's what I want to say. Which people are just more leaving comments, which I understand. If Chiefs want Love, is a trade for number 5 pick giving us number 9 and now number 29 too rich for the Chiefs? I feel like that would be too rich for the Chiefs. I would certainly take that. But that feels too rich for the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what the competition is. And like I said, there's a chance that Jeremiah Love, and I've talked to somebody who said that he's probably going to be number 1 on their board, another team. If that's the case and you have him as the number 1 player on your board, you could have a situation where you have multiple teams saying, we need this guy we're going to trade up and do it. And that's when you obviously maximize the value on it. So if you can get that, that's a no-brainer for the New York Giants. Microphone, Bobby.
Let's finish off with the West Virginia stuff. So
you're as big a boomer as I am.
Well, no, I'm producing and doing the show, so I don't want to have clicking and
sounds like excuses.
It is an excuse, but sometimes excuses are just reasons. So the Giants are going to be starting training camp in West Virginia, and I will put the place they're staying on the screen. They're staying here. This is where
looks beautiful.
Yeah, they're gonna practice. When I first looked it up, I was like, "Oh, I must have typed in the wrong thing. That's the White House." Yeah. And then no, it's not the White House. It's
well, don't they call it the White House? Isn't that like its nickname?
I don't know. I just became familiar with this. It's the Greenbrier, and I think it's Sulphur Rapid Hills, or whatever, West Virginia.
For some reason, I remember the Saints were there for several years under Sean Payton.
Yeah, I think the Texans went there last year or something like that. So what they're doing this because of construction and the World Cup. It probably has more to do with construction as the World Cup, because the World Cup ends before training camp starts. Mm-hmm. What do you make of them taking it to West Virginia instead of going back to Albany or doing something for their fans,
Yeah, that's the only thing. I get it because, I was talking to people last week or whatever it was at the Combine, and they said that their facility is really, getting under construction. It's really tight right now. So if you have training camp there, I would understand if the building's still getting worked on, that it would be extremely congested and difficult. So that to me seems like more the answer than the World Cup, which ends earlier in the summer. I believe it ends in July. I guess just with security and setting it up, there might be some obstacles in that regard. So maybe that factors into it a little bit as well. But also, you could have done it somewhere locally. This doesn't seem to be ideal for Giants fans. You're trying to build hype for the team, and now you're in West Virginia. Like, is there a Giants fan base, and big Giants fan base in West Virginia that I missed?
It's just these people are bougie, and they don't want to go to University of Albany and deal with that. So they want to go. They want to have the nice bougie. That's the reality.
Well, I thought you meant I'm bougie because I'm looking at like, do I really want to go to West Virginia?
See, we were talking about this. This is where you are different. Where you were like, oh, West Virginia, and I'm like, yes, we're going to freaking West Virginia. Like, I'd obviously rather do it, at Quest Diagnostic with Giants fans, and hopefully they.
Is there anything around the Greenbrier? Like, where even is it in West Virginia?
Mountains, the earth, God's green earth. How about that?
So we're gonna go hunting? I've never been hunting in my life.
So that's what we're gonna.
We hunting.
I'm not a hunter, but I can.
We're gonna go fishing.
That's what we need to do. Is we got to lean into it. We're gonna go.
Country stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna go shoot stuff. We're gonna go fishing. We're gonna do it all.
Do I look like someone who's good at that kind of stuff?
No, but that's why it's gonna be good content.
I know they're saying CT's saying the Greenbrier is an exclusive resort. We get that, but
we're not going to stay at the Greenbrier Resort. Like that's not where we're going to be there for practice.
I don't know about that. Let's not. I'm not going to say that 100%.
Well, yeah, you got that ESPN money.
I'm damn well going to try. I don't know if I will. I'm damn well going to try.
So we're going to be staying in a cabin in West Virginia, which maybe doesn't want this information public. But there's somebody that's having a wedding around that time where it's like, oh gosh, this, I was kind of planning on being in New Jersey. Now I'm not going to be in New Jersey. So now we got to,
you're adding a second wife?
Yes. Making a day trip, and we're getting married in New Jersey. So that's actually no, Utah. I think that's the only place that's legal these days. This country. So
K-Mac's right. I'll be hunting in cargo shorts. Is that like a faux pas to hunt in cargo?
I mean,
shorts?
I'll wear cargo shorts.
Is there something wrong with that?
That's what training camp was about. Is about wearing cargo shorts.
I agree. I mean, for practicality purposes, I want to maximize my storage potential.
So I'm
God, I am so old.
I am excited for it. So we're gonna do some type of live show in West Virginia. And this is what I'm saying. The Paul Schwartz article said that, or the New York Post article said that their practices are going to be open. But I'm just, fair warning, Giants. Like I will either be there attending practices or be right outside of them making a stink. So let's go with the path of least resistance here. But I'm excited for it. I love training camp. Getting to see a John Harbaugh practice and all that, that'll be cool. So unfortunately, one of the best parts about training camp is talking and hanging out with all the Giants fans. So hopefully they do make their way back there for some open practices for the fans in Jersey, because that's a good thing.
The thing is, practices are going to be just fascinating for the Giants this year too. I mean, I'm intrigued to sit there and watch practice, because everything you hear about John Harbaugh is that these are going to be hard practices, and it's going to be, and that's like almost nobody runs as hard a practices as he still does. So I want to see it, and I think fans would want to see that also.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna they grade practices, right? That was one thing we learned in some of the interviews asking people about Baltimore, is that they actually gain they grade each player individually in the practice, and they have like a scoreboard for how like those players did in that practice. So I think that's important. Nobody wants to be last on that list, and everyone's going to want to be first. Like that type of shit matters. This is obviously not staying in some Division III dorm or whatever, but this is also very different from staying in New Jersey too. So I'm kind of excited about the team building period of it, so we can write stories about the Harbaugh era started in West Virginia or whatever.
Yeah. Well, should be fun. I'll be there, I think. I haven't even talked to anyone yet. Didn't expect
You'll be there. You'll be there.
I will be there. I don't know how long, to what degree. I'll be there.
John Harbaugh
will be there as well, too. Let's see. And anything else?
No, I think that's all I got right now. I mean, we'll see what happens with free agency coming up, the middle linebacker position, how that kind of plays out. But yeah, I look, a lot of these things, by the way, and I know you're going to hear a lot of stuff over the next few days, are not finalized. So anything can happen when Monday comes around. I think if anyone's going to tell you definitively X or Y, I would not believe it. So stay off Twitter and X and social media and message boards, because you see a lot of garbage right now.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. Obviously, we're gonna have our free agency preview out on Friday. Got a film breakdown draft coming out tomorrow. We'll have film breakdowns of all the Giants players, reactions. Breaking Big Blue will be live again next week. So some exciting stuff. Anything else, Jordan, before you close this out?
No, that's all I got for you right there. I mean, let's go free agency. Come on. It's going to be fun because of the unknown that the Giants are currently in with John Harbaugh. So let's go. Going to be fun. You're listening to Breaking Big Blue times Giants Nation Show collab. He's Bobby Skinner. I'm Jordan Raanan. We'll be back again in the midst of the free agent action next week. See you next time.